Hello, welcome to Leap Taken. This is Mika, and here at Leap Taken, I talk about all things witchy, craft related, law of attraction, manifesting, esoteric, and everything else in between. So today I want to talk about self care. In particular, not just the pampering self care, although I love that. I want to talk about self care a little bit differently and a little bit of what it's not, at least all the time. So, all right, so we have different aspects of ourselves. We have our mental, our emotional, spiritual, and our physical aspects of ourselves. So I would say the pampering definitely probably can reach all of those things, because pampering can be something that is almost downright spiritual. If you ever get a great foot massage, you know what I'm talking about. So beyond that, so when I'm talking, let's say mental, a good book, nonfiction, fiction, doesn't matter. Do you realize that when you're reading, especially something that's fiction, what you're doing is you're tapping into a part of yourself, like a world building part of yourself, where you're taking the words and you're envisioning people, places, sounds, scents, all in your mind, all because of what you read. Your imagination, if you will, right? So you're doing all these things. So that's stimulating. That's a great act of self-care for your mental point of view. That's why reading is great. And if it's not fiction, nonfiction is perfect. You're able to soak up that information, hopefully, or even if you don't agree with it, it's still stimulating, and we need that. That's right there alone, just from a mental point of view of self-care, that's great. Watching a great movie, watching a series. Honestly, sometimes it could be watching a rerun. In my case, I have Friends. I probably watch that almost every day. It's just like background to me. But for my mental, it does something to me. Those people are familiar, the characters. It's like frozen in time people. And for some reason, it's not that it's stimulating. It's more, it puts me at a nice hum, a bass line or something. It just calms me mentally, so I don't, if I got a lot of things going on, it kind of just evens everything out. I know some people have shows where they do that. It's just they watch them almost every day. It's not even that they're really watching them. You hear it. It's just in the background, and it just does something for you just to have it on. It's comforting. Um, emotionally, that's where I would say journaling. The act of journaling is great self-care, because one, you're exposing yourself just to yourself, but you can talk to yourself and just really be free and just let everything out, all how you felt, what you didn't say, what you should have said, all of that sort of stuff. Instead of replaying it in your head before you go to sleep every night, write it down in your journal. It's also great to keep a mood tracker, and if you don't know what that is, I'm a crazy person who plans. I have multiple planners. I decorate them. We are an entire community. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, you know now. There's a bunch of people like me from all walks of life, and we own lots of planners and notebooks and journals, and we use them. Sometimes we finish them, sometimes we don't. We're addicted to paper and pretty colors. That's pretty much it. But along in that community, mood trackers are a big thing. You usually get a little sticker. It'll have the week, Monday, Tuesday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, so forth on there. And you would write in a blank space, if you're tracking your water intake, and you get a little dot or star or whatever if you met your goal. So you have mood trackers for moods. So instead of every day, you would have like a smiley face, a sad face, an angry face, and other faces in between, right? So you would just color it in or circle the one that you felt that day. And the whole point of doing this, which is also an act of self-care, by the way, is so that you're tracking your moods, but so that you have now this record to look back and you can see any trends or what's going on with you. If you write down a little bit more about why you're feeling the way you felt, that's great too. So mood trackers, again, great act of self-care, and that's working with the emotional. Obviously, talking to people is great. Going to a therapist, to me, for some emotional things, I would say using divination is good for that too, because you can kind of dig a little bit deeper doing some sort of guided shadow work. A lot of people have free things online on how to sort of do shadow work, which involves a lot of journaling in a way, because you want to write this stuff down, make videos, go on YouTube, all of that. Sorry, my computer's making noise. All of that sort of stuff. You can do that. Okay, so now the physical. Physical is going to be movement, any kind of movement. Cleaning your house is self-care. Cleaning those floors, scrubbing your floors if they need to be scrubbed, going out on your porch and sweeping it, or your steps, or just your entryway, shaking out your rug, doing a protection spell around your house where you have to walk around and sprinkle salt in the corners. That's physical, and it's also tapping into spirituality, but you are moving. And with every walk, with every sprinkle, with every flicker in your hand that you do the spell and you're speaking, that's movement. And that can be considered self-care. And I'm not just scraping at the bottom of the barrel of the minimalist thing that you can do. Sometimes we don't know what else to do. You've been busy all day. Let's say you have kids or you work or whatever you're doing. And you got to, there's dinner to be made or picked up, eaten, cleaned up, and then do it all over again the next day. So there's only, you're tired. You don't feel like physically doing anything. So, yeah, the things I'm talking about are, for me, more practical approaches to self-care. So, yeah, exercising if possible, stretching. First of all, a good 5-minute stretch session, you can find 5 minutes, because you can be on a bed doing this. You don't even have to be standing up necessarily. You can do a couple things standing up and then get on the bed and do the rest of the stretching exercises. Lift your legs, your arms, bend yourself in all different positions that feel really good to you. There you go. That 5-minute session, intentional 5-minute session, is an act of physical self-care. Enjoy. So there's that. And then, of course, spiritually. Now, for me, one of the things that I like to do occasionally is just a little ritual. I'm still honing. It's kind of a newer thing that I'm doing. It's where I take a candle. Typically, it's going to be a white candle. For some reason, it just resonates to use the color white. And this is a self-love spell for myself. And it's not that the first spell didn't work, so why do I keep doing it? It's more like it's just a ritual of just taking time out and reinforcing what's already there, what I already know. So I'll take a white candle and inscribe it with like harmony, balance, acceptance, love. Those are the things you want for yourself. You want balance, harmony, to be accepting of yourself. All of you, we're all changing. We're not, some of us, hey, maybe you're perfect. That's great. Kudos. Some of us maybe don't always feel perfect, or we wish this was better, or we wish this was a little tucked in, or this was a little up, or, and there's so many things, right, that you can we pick at, and you try not to. So that's where that acceptance comes in. It's just a little reminder, a little refresher, using the spiritual component, but it also affects you emotionally, intellectually, I would say mentally as well, where you're just doing this act of self-care for yourself, where you light this inscribed candle. I would anoint it with an essential oil like lavender, rose oil if you have it. Stuff is expensive though, but if you have it, rose oil, lavender, rosemary, something like that. Even lemon essential oil, because it's brightening, and it's, to me, lemon is happy, it's bright, it clears sort of any non-acceptance, doubt, negativity, so it makes room for all those things you just inscribed on the candle. So that's also something, I've done that. I've used more citrusy, because for some reason, I don't know, it puts me in a mindset of self-care. It puts me in a mindset of refreshing, yeah, so something citrusy. So an essential oil, that is. So I'll use that. Avoiding the wick, of course, like the candle. I might say a couple words, affirmation, usually something with an I am statement. If I'm not speaking it, I'm writing it in my journal or my book of shadows. along with when I did the rituals. I write what I did in my book of shadows. And I'll write an I am statement. I'm feeling positive about myself. I love who I am. I love who I'm becoming. I love the woman I'm becoming. I accept her. I greet her. I know there's lots more to learn, and something like that. If you just kind of want an overall positive thing, if you're really grappling with something, body issues and things like that, which lucky if you've never been there, some of us are there, where, you go back and forth about that. But if you are, you can definitely, it doesn't have to rhyme. It's just a little affirmation that you're saying. And the intention is, as the candle burns, what you're saying is becomes true. It becomes fact. It's done. And you do this little ritual, and maybe you switch it up and use something different, or you just reiterate the positivity that you want in your life, and the acceptance and love of yourself and all of that sort of stuff, right? So that would be a self-love spell that you can do for yourself. So you're taking your magic, your intentions, and you're putting it all on you. Even if you don't feel all those things, you say it, and you just focus enough energy into the intention, and it'll be so. And that's why I say you check in, do this weekly or monthly, because it just reinforces it. Because there's a lot of messages coming in, whether we realize it or not, no matter how old you are, about what's considered sexy, what's considered, smart, what's considered success. And sometimes, whether you realize it or not, that got in your head. And you can't pinpoint when, who said it, or where, but all of a sudden you have these self-doubt thoughts, disparaging thoughts about yourself, where you look at yourself and you don't realize you're comparing yourself to someone you saw on Instagram, or, whatever the situation is, or you, all of a sudden, your place was fine, your car was fine. And then there was a moment where all of a sudden it's not enough. And, you're smart enough to realize, hey, what's going on with me? I mean, I know it's fine. I know I'm happy with my situation. But there's that, voice that tell you, oh, you should want more, and that could be driven by outside influences. So you just have to be mindful. I'm not telling you to cut everything off and don't watch TV and don't go on social media. You just have to be mindful that there's a bigger spell at play, and it's called media and marketing. And that's a heck of a spell, because it affects a lot of us. Shoot, you watch enough, there are commercials that come on that they run them so much, it got you wondering at the end of it, should I buy a Dyson? Now, good and damn well that vacuum cleaner you got worked just fine. You never had a problem with it. And if you wanted to do a deep cleaning, you get a steam cleaner and you're good to go. You never had a problem with your vacuum cleaner. But they telling you, and there was so much advertisement for the Dyson. I remember, this is remember when it first came out years ago? And the more you see it, and then like QVC, HSN, you flipping through and you see that, you're like, I should buy that. Like, they get in your psyche, man. It's a big spell. It's a bigger spell. There's other magics at play. And even though you're working your own magic, there's this whole big conglomerate whose will is super strong against yours. It doesn't mean you can't win. It just means that they'll probably get in. And you have to set up your defenses so you recognize it and you're not being manipulated, so that you can love yourself and accept yourself, and you're willing to even bother to take time out to focus on just you in the name of self-care. So that's how I feel about self-care. So I hope these suggestions were helpful. I don't always go kind of in the box, because I don't think all of our lives fit that way. I'm home during the day alone, so I probably have time to do more of the pampering, plus some of the other stuff I'm talking about. But I have projects I'm working on. I have things that I want to accomplish during the day. I do a lot of writing, so I'm not always in a position where it's like, ooh, it's time for my spa session, because I'm choosing to work on something else. So no, I'm not going to do that. So I need to think of other ways, just like everybody else, think of other ways to bring more self-care into my life for the different aspects of myself. So there you go. Now, I'm going to take a sip of my tea because I'm getting ready to say something a little more out there. Let's talk about healing. Now, there are some people, there's quite a few people, where they're using self-care for healing. Now, that's fine. That's not the issue. The issue is, I feel like there is a stronghold of manipulators on the healing movement, to the point that you got women out here saying witches, people who practice magic, people who affect energy, will tell you they can't do XYZ, or they're not willing to do this or that because they're in the process of healing. If your leg broke, you can still move. If I break my thumb, I can still use the rest of my hand, even while it's healing. If I get a scratch across my face, I can still smile, wink, laugh, talk while it's healing, even if it hurts when I move. I'm not minimizing anybody's hurt, trauma, or their healing process, but we got a problem. And I think it affects all of us, honestly, not just women, because I'm seeing men go through this of, oh, well, they're going through a healing process. But I think with women, we're more vocal, so I'm just going to touch on that. We have to do a little better, and I think if you are somebody who practices paganism, specifically witchcraft, but if you are, I say the umbrella of paganism, because if you're doing, something with the ATR, or you know, Wicca, whatever, and you are in this constant state of using self-care as healing, and you participate in retreats, and you go almost annually to heal your sister circles, you're healing. Where are you healing from? Why is it taking so long for you to heal? Not that there's a timeline, but I know people who basically lives seem like just one catastrophe issue after another. Job loss, this. And yeah, there might be, drugs at play, alcoholism, or just, you can tell there's just something out of balance with this person. Mentally, something is just not balanced. So the life choices are just all over the place, which is inviting all these things to happen to them. You will find people like that within a witchy community. And some of those people will talk about healing. And they they could talk a good word because it makes sense. And they post things online on different social media sites. You'll see it on Instagram or Facebook. You'll see their YouTube videos. And they're just going on and on about the trauma, the patriarchy, blah, blah, blah. The abuse, this, that, or the other. Oh, and what's triggering to them. And how they're going to take a spiritual bath because, their deity of choice, is working on healing them and this and that. And you listen, you're like, oh, okay. It sounds, when you hear it, because I was someone listening like, oh, wow, yeah, I can understand. I'm an empathetic person. I can understand that. But that's their spiel. That's their story. So I've, see things you post, or a year later, year and a half, 2 years, you still healing, honey? 3 years? You still working on your healing movement? That's still your story. Ayanna Van Zandt, I don't know which episode it was on her show that she has on OWN Network. I remember she was talking to somebody. I don't remember the whole thing, but what she said resonated with me, and I'll never forget it. She was telling a young lady who was talking, I think she said she was a survivor of some sort of trauma, rape or domestic violence, something like that. And she said, she cut her off. Ayanna said, no, get a new story. And the person said, like, what? Because in their mind, saying I'm a survivor, saying I'm, this happened to me, but look at me now and go into the other accomplishments that they were doing. To them, that was moving forward. No, it's not. You just labeled and identified yourself as something that happened to you, but you've accomplished all these other things, but you start there. Get a new story. Trauma, things have happened to me. I'll just make it more personal. Trauma, violence, things that shouldn't happen to people. I've had things happen to me. And I don't say that lightly to be condescending. No. Effed up things people did and took advantage of me. More than once. I've had hard, things that were not okay happen to me. It can't be my story. I'm so many other things besides what happened to me. That can't be the only thing that influences my entire outlook on people and the world. Was that thing that happened to me, or those things that happened to me. Did it shape me? Yes, of course, it's inevitable. It's going to shape you. A traumatic incident, especially to a child, can throw you off your trajectory of who you were going to be if that hadn't happened. You might be a more serious person. You probably would have been more happy-go-lucky, or vice versa. You rely more on, jokes and things like that in social situations because you get uncomfortable otherwise. You see my point? So yeah, it's going to probably alter you. Granted. However, accept that. And if you don't like being serious, or you don't like being a jokester all the time, and you feel like these traumatic events affected you that way, stop. Make a new story for yourself. Do not say you can't. It's too hard. We know, listen, it's all about perception. I know it's real and it hurts with you, and you might not be concerned with other people, but there are other people whose story is probably 100 times worse than yours. Doesn't make your story less, doesn't mean it doesn't debilitate you just as much as it debilitated them. Emotionally, maybe physically, you just can't seem to move forward with your life. I understand that. And I've been around a lot of people who've been in some really, I grew up in a place where I've seen things I shouldn't have seen with others, witnessed, and then had things happen to me. So I come from a place where trauma is accepted because it wasn't an affluent neighborhood. If you lived basically within a poverty area, unfortunately, violence and trauma and everything else comes along with it. So I grew up around seeing dysfunctional people, adults, children, teens, who I know what it looks like to not deal and not heal at all, and just go through life with that sitting right there on the surface, that trauma. So I'm not asking you to do that. What I'm asking is if you are grappling with this healing process, and you've been healing for some time now, and you're not making moves in your life. You're not dating this man that's interested. You won't go on a dating app and register, but you've been single all this time, and you seeing all your friends, everybody else that got married twice over. I'm just being honest. And you too afraid to go on, but you don't call that being afraid. You call that I'm healing. Because I went through this traumatic thing with the last man I was with. And I'm really just healing right now. Because the last time I went on a date, the last time, I thought about going on the dating app, or the last time I did go and I got a bunch of crazy people, that whole thing. And they're excuses, and you're using healing as an excuse. You live in a really effed up area. You could afford to live there. You don't think you could afford much else, but you don't look. You got kids. The school system sucks. You know it does. You want better. You out here practicing magic. You're doing money spells. You're doing this and that. Some of them work you a couple dollars here and there. Why are you not looking? Why are you not looking for different types of jobs outside your neighborhood? Because you're thinking, well, where can I work? Well, how am I move until I get the job? I don't have the money. You're a witch. Practice your magic, honey. Find that way to get that bump so it all can happen. You just need that bump. I used to be a single mom. I know what I'm talking about. I remember those days where I didn't like this area. It wasn't good. I want to move over here, but I don't make enough money maybe to qualify for those apartments in that area, I need a little bit more money. So I need that bump. Now, I wasn't practicing witchcraft at the time, but I was practicing intuitive magic. I just didn't know that's what it was. Tapping into my intuition, paying attention to the voices, the sounds, the signs, the symbols that was coming my way. I opened myself up to that, where I was just being led by my ancestors at that point, because I didn't know more than that, but that was okay. They had me, and they brought me further along to where I am now, where I'm actually practicing witchcraft. You just need to take that step. And if that step means looking at apartments, even though you ain't even got money for the application fee, go look at them apartments. Go to the school's website, look for the jobs. You're creating energy. You're telling the universe, this is happening. I'm planning it. Start thinking about what day you would move. So you want to move during a Christmas break, where the kids out of school, you want to move at the beginning of the year, or you going to wait until the kids get out of school and get everything, your ducks in a row. Take this time and do all that. How much are moving boxes? Is it going to cost a lot? Do I need a moving truck? I wonder who could help me move. You plan everything. Get you and them kids out that neighborhood. You have, we have so much. We have so much that we're capable of doing. And a lot of times we let so many other things distract us, like healing. I'm healing. You can heal and move and dream and manifest and make things happen all at the same time. You can be healing, and you can still be fun, wild, free. Remember, if I have a scrape, if I have a broken arm, nothing that I know that arm is broken, it is healing. But I'm still going to go out to the movies. I'm still going to go take a walk. I'm still going to get on a treadmill and walk. Yes, inside pain is different from outside pain. I understand that. But it has happened. It has happened. And now it's time to reconcile what has happened, and then take what we need and leave what we don't want. What we need to know is this thing happened. It was never okay. It will never be okay. And I'm never going to forget about it. We can take that because that's inevitable. That's about it. That's about it. I would say leave everything else. That's what you could take. But that's where I feel as far as the healing movement. I think a lot of us are using it as an excuse to not move forward in our lives. And I'm seeing it a lot, and it's just being touted as something is okay, and we have people profiting off of trauma, other people's trauma, and talking about healing, and let's talk about it, let's work through it. And it's like, okay, I'm all, because I believe in therapy, so I believe in going to a therapist. I'm definitely comfortable with talking about problems. But one of the things you have to be concerned about when dealing with healing circles or people who profess to want to help you heal, you have to be mindful as far as what their motivation is and where their mental state is. If they start the conversation with, I'm a domestic violence survivor, a rape survivor or whatever, I'm a little leery. And listen, this is why I said this might be a little controversial, because I understand that's language that's used in groups where people go for healing. If you are a rape survivor, that's, people say that in the group. Well, we in a damn group. I figure you were a rape survivor, because why else would we be here? The group is said for rape survivors, come here, So we know that. I'm not one of those people who likes to identify themselves by this one thing that happened to me or this event that happened to me over a period of time, because I understand trauma can happen over a period of time. You could have been raped your whole childhood. You could have had things happen to you over a period of time. I understand that. So as someone who has gone through things that shouldn't have happened, and it was never my fault, and it was never okay, and I will never forget, that's not my title. I'm a mother, I'm a wife, I'm a friend, I'm a sister, I'm an auntie, I'm a witch. I'm a writer. I'm a blogger. I'm a enthusiast when it comes to planning and planners and stationery and paper. I am so many other things. I consider myself an interior designer. I have nothing to back it other than what I'm doing with my own house, but in my other houses I've lived in. But I have so many other things that I could call myself than a survivor of some traumatic event. Like I said, doesn't mean it didn't happen. Doesn't mean I'm not in alignment with what had happened to me. It just means I'm not claiming that as who I am going forward. That happened. But I'm sitting here now. This is who I am. I'm all these other things. That's nowhere on the list. So my self-care isn't wrapped in healing. My self-care isn't going through that. Now, if something's going on with me and I need to heal, yes, that makes sense. My issue is if it's been a period of time, and let's put a time frame on this. Let's say we're talking more than a year. We're going into 2 years. I know someone who was healing from a divorce, and they let it go on for too many years. To me, you wasted time. You wasted time. Meanwhile, the other person had moved on. We see stuff like this, a breakup or something like that, they're healing because of the trauma they endured during the relationship, which was real, and how the breakup happened, which was real. And it was traumatic. Okay. Life is for the living. You have to live. You have to move. Hurts, scrapes. We see babies do it. When they learn to walk, they scrape their knee, they cry. It heals and they continue to keep walking. You see toddlers do this all the time. I didn't even say preschool. Toddlers do this all the time. That pain is there. You know how they say children, you get on them and you shouldn't have did that. You get in trouble, tell them to go on a timeout. They come out. Most times, most kids, as some people, I've raised kids and I've helped others and I babysat because I'm the oldest out of all the grandchildren. So all my cousins came much later after me, so I babysat them. So one thing you'll notice is with little kids, they tend to they get over it. I don't want to say they get over it. That wouldn't be a fair statement. They move forward. They move forward. They go back to play. It's not that the incident didn't hurt their feelings when you told them, no, you can't do that. I'm not talking about abuse where, you got on your kid because they did something they shouldn't have done, and you told them, and you were serious, and your tone was serious. Maybe you had a little bit of raised voice, but the point was to stop them and tell them not to do that. They're not allowed to do this. And that child feelings is going to be hurt. Even though they know they're wrong, it doesn't matter. They don't want you to talk to them like that. So they're upset. They move on. And once, they get over their feelings in that moment, it's not that they forgot they didn't forget. They didn't push it to the side, but life is for the living. They want to do play now. They want to go do this. They want to snack. Life is moving on. You're technically doing it anyway, physically, most of us, unless you're, locked away somewhere. But if you're going to work and you're just kind of moving through life, you are doing some of the work already. You just take the extra step, the extra leap, if you will, and just keep going. Move out the healing phase. Where's recovery? Move out healing, recovery, heal. There you go. So I'm Mika. This is Leap Taken. And go ahead and like the video, please. That'd be great. And if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. That'd be even greater. Thank you for watching. And yeah, thanks.